It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning show that covers fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation here in the Great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Loophole Optics, America's optical authority, by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors,
by Wallowa County.
Nature is on display in Northeast Oregon, and by The Real News, your fishing resource. Also by Shiloh Inns and Suites, providing you with affordable excellence. And by Mardon Resort, the place for fishing, hunting, and more in Eastern Washington. And now, it's time to head outside with your host, John Cruz.
It's mid-November and hunting and fishing continues to be on the center stage for outdoor enthusiasts in the Northwest. Some of you are after birds, but a lot of you are after bulls and bucks. If you are a big game hunter, you know the quality of your rifle scope can be the difference between you closing the deal when you pull that trigger or not being able to see things well enough to make that shot. That's why we're being joined this week by Pat Mundy. He's the Director of Brand Communications for Loophole Optics out of Beaverton, Oregon. Pat's going to be talking about some of the great scopes they have available for hunters and also talk about fixed versus variable scopes and the use of red dot and reflex sights in the field by hunters. It's going to be a really interesting discussion. One place you may want to go hunting or fishing is the area around Pateros, Washington. I was up there last week at a really well-attended steelhead seminar put together by Dave Graybill, the fishin' magician, along with Charles and Jeanette Palmer from Howard's on the River. About 100 of us enjoyed a great dinner and then got to hear from local steelhead fishing experts like Keith Rowe, Kevin Van Buren, and Shane Magnuson. I'll tell you what, I learned more about steelhead fishing in 2 hours than I did the last 2 years trying to figure it out myself on the water. Pateros is a little town with a name that may sound familiar. That's because this is the area that burned up to a large extent this summer in Washington's biggest wildfire in recorded history. But if you were to go there right now, you would find the business district is intact, and there are very good opportunities around here to bag a buck, duck, goose, or just about any species of upland bird. The steelhead fishing is fantastic too. Jeanette Palmer, co-manager of Howard's Lakeshore Inn and Howard's on the River in Pateros, will tell you all about it and also show you around the luxurious 4-star hotel and restaurant they have located right on the Columbia River at the mouth of the Methow. Speaking of fishing, there is some decent fall fishing on tap for trout and kokanee in western Washington and northern Idaho right now. Lance Mers will tell you about it this week on the Max Minute segment and also give you suggestions on a dodger you can use to get some of these fish in the boat. We've got a bunch of outdoorsy upcoming events on tap, as well as news about predators around the Northwest to include wolves, coyotes, and sea lions. And speaking of that latter predator, David Sparks has got some information about sea lions and the problems they're causing charter boat captains on this week's Sportsman Spotlight, which is brought to you every week by Shiloh Inn and Suites, the hotel chain that lives up to its motto every day of providing affordable excellence. Let's listen in to find out more.
Halibut fishing and sea lions. David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Last week, expert fisherman Rob Maxey told me, and I'll use his words, sea lions have gotten extremely bold to the point where they're following boats and waiting for people to hook up a salmon and then chasing after it. You see the rod go down, you're fighting a fish, and all of a sudden it just takes off. Rob told me that you have to turn and follow the sea lion that has the fish, and if you don't, he's going to break off and you'll lose $25 worth of gear. The story continues.
We had problems as far offshore as 30 miles offshore halibut fishing, where sea lions would come up and darn near crawl into your boat. Halibut fishing in the deep water has a lot of special rules where you have to release red fish. There's certain types of fish that you can keep and certain types you can't. And because the fish have the bends when they come up, you have a special release mechanism where you drop them back down to depth so they recompress and then they get a real good survival rate that way. That's one of the ways you've been able to keep fishing for the deep water fish and targeting certain species. So when you haul the wrong species up inadvertently, I put them in the splash wheel on the back of my boat, then hook the descender up. So the back of my boat smells like fish. These sea lions, they smell that, and pretty soon they're trying to climb into the back of your boat, trying to rip a fish out of your hand. They get very aggressive. Something else with these sea lions now that, like at Bonneville, they're having problems with the sea lions. It's the sturgeon as much as the salmon.
Rob told me that the sea lions are so aggressive he fears that sooner or later somebody's going to lose either a limb or their life. This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight.
Confused by so many national brand hotel reward programs? Blackout dates, expiration dates, different points for different hotel rewards, and gimmicks? At Shiloh Inn Suites Hotels, it's simple. No blackout dates for any rewards stay. If we have a room available, it's yours. Hi, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. As a rewards member, you'll receive free room upgrades, a dedicated personal agent to help book your stay, points that don't expire, points that can be used for free nights at any one of our beautiful hotels or donations to your local school or free airline tickets, and much more. And as a special bonus, you'll earn 100 free bonus points just for signing up. From your very first stay, you receive free Wi-Fi, free breakfast at most locations. The kids stay free. We don't charge ridiculous resort or parking fees, and we're dog-friendly. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American-owned and proud of it.
Camping fare shouldn't come down to cold cereal for breakfast and charred hot dogs for dinner. You deserve better than that. And at Camp Chef, we give you the gear you need to prepare great meals in the great outdoors. Our gas stoves, camp ovens, smokers, Dutch ovens, and full line of outdoor cooking gear gives you what you need to prepare everything from gourmet food to simple and tasty hot meals for you and your family. Look for Camp Chef products at your local sporting goods dealer or online at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
You led a good life. You ate lots of corn. You found a wife, and 2 fawns were born. But early this morning, you scampered past me. So I aimed and I shot. Now I got you roped up in my tree.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. Up next, we're talking about hunting, we're talking about rifle scopes, and we're talking about a guy who knows all about it, Pat Mundy. He's with Leupold. He's the Director of Brand Communications for this great Northwest company. Pat, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John.
Pat, for those that don't know about Leupold as a Northwest company, why don't you just briefly tell our listeners exactly where you're located, how many people work there, and what you produce?
Okay, yeah, we're in Beaverton, Oregon. There's about 600 to 650 of us right now. We've been in business since 1907. We're a fifth-generation family-owned company, and we manufacture rifle scopes, spotting scopes, and mounting systems here.
And you do it not just for hunting, but you also do it for the military, close relationship with our soldiers, and we appreciate that. But we're going to talk hunting today. And, you know, with the holidays coming up, people are probably looking for a good rifle scope for people to buy. There might be others who have been hunting out there and are just fed up with the rifle scope that they have right now. And with that in mind, let's just go straight to the point. What's the most popular rifle scope you have and why?
Well, there's really 3 of them, I think. The 3 most popular scopes in our lineup are probably the VX1 3-9x40, the VX2 3-9x40, and the VX3 3.5 to 10. And I think the reason those scopes are so popular is because they all give you a magnification range that is pretty flexible, allows you to hunt anywhere from timber to pretty open country, and you know it gives you a good field of view, a nice blend of exit pupils, so you have a lot of light coming through the system, you know, and then each one of those is just staggered at a different price point. So you can start with at $199 for a VX1 3-9. You go up to about $300 for a VX2 3-9, depending on what features you want, and then the VX3 will be right around $500. So you know you can really get a lot of features in each one of those products.
And I guess we need to tell folks a little bit about the quality that Leupold offers in this scope. There's certain features in all 3 of those scopes that are found that people really need to look for when they're buying a scope.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think, you know, the common thing for Leupold, obviously, is dependability and ruggedness. You know, that's something we've really built our reputation on. We have the best warranty protection in the business, but we always joke that we hope it's the warranty you never have to use. Very few of our scopes ever come back. They're built to withstand any rigors of hunting. They're waterproof, shockproof, fogproof. They're just extremely durable tools in addition to being really finely tuned optical instruments. So, you know, each one of them brings a slightly different level of performance, but at this point with computer-aided design and our amazing engineering staff here, we've been able to bring every one of those scopes up to what we think really is the best value at its price point.
So there you go, folks. The VX1, VX2, VX3, great scopes to get out there and hunt. Whether you're after coyote or deer or elk or bear, but let's go ahead and go to the other extreme. Let's say somebody wants to do something really special or somebody just wants the best. What is the scope that Leupold is most proud of that's on the market right now?
Well, that one to me is really easy. That's the VX6. I mean, we came out with that scope a couple of years ago. It's got a 6-to-1 erector, which means basically we magnify your image 6 times. So you can have, for example, a 1 power to 6 power on the low end of the scale, all the way up to a target model, which is a 7 power on the low end and a 42 power on the high end. So in between that, there's several really good hunting models. There's a 2 to 12. There's a 3 to 18, and there's a 4 to 24. So those products, they just give you such a wide range. You know, you look at a 2 to 12, for example, on 2 power, you can hunt in the thickest timber at close range. You can turn it up to 12 for long shots in open country. The same can really be said of the 3 to 18. You know, the 4 to 24, much the same, only it takes you out even farther. You know, you can shoot a long ways with a 24 power scope if you practice a lot and know what you're doing. So they're fantastic scopes, and they're state of the art. We think they're the best. And we know because we do a lot of testing here. We have a multi-million-dollar optics lab that they are some of the very best scopes in the world right now.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking with Pat Mundy with Leupold Optics. They're a sponsor of the show. We're proud to have them because they truly make some of the best, if not the best, rifle scopes out there for hunting and for tactical use as well. I got a question for you, though. Variable scopes is pretty much the norm these days, but you still sell fixed scopes, fixed power scopes. What is the situation? What is the place that you'd want to use a fixed scope versus a variable scope?
Well, that's an interesting question. I was just discussing this with one of my friends in the industry last week. He's a big fan of our 6x42, so that's a fixed 6 power with a 42 millimeter objective, and he had just killed a nice elk on a do-it-yourself public hunt in Montana, and you know, I think what it is, a lot of times it's lightweight. There's less lenses in the system, so a lot of them are extremely bright. You know, there's less to go wrong. I mean, it's unlikely anything's going to go wrong anyway, but they're very, very tough. They're just a bulletproof scope. And I think that over the years, a lot of people have just come to appreciate them. Because for one thing, when you throw the scope up, you always see the image magnified the same amount. So it's, you know, you don't get stuck on 3 power when you're taking a 400-yard shot, or probably more commonly get stuck on 9 power when you have a 30 or 40-yard shot. Right. That is something I think a lot of hunters have gone through. You're right about that. Yeah, that's a very easy situation to have happen with a variable. You know, you walk out of the timber and you forget to take your scope off low power, or walk into the timber and forget to take it off high, and all of a sudden you're caught with this situation that you've got to fiddle around a little bit to make a shot. So. Okay, well, nice to know, and there you go, folks. Fixed scopes still have a place there in the field, and now you know why. Let's talk about another new trend. You know, reflex sights that you find on ARs and shotguns and red dot sights, very popular on the tactical side. Are they making inroads into the hunting side as well? Yeah, I think so. I think where we're seeing a lot of uses on, in our area, probably on shotguns for predators. There's also some use with them for hogs. I think you see hogs are very commonly hunted at close range, and it's fast action. What those do is they give you a huge field of view and a very intuitive aiming point. So it makes it really easy on anything running, close, dark targets on a dark background. Even if you're hunting, like, say, moose in thick cover or something like that, where you're looking at a real dark hide and your shots aren't going to be very long, something like that could be very handy.
Do these usually have any sort of magnification, at least the Leupold ones, or is it just basically what you see, what you get? You're just looking for clarity and looking for that red dot or that reticle?
Yeah, I think the nature of the red dot sight or the reflex sight is generally zero magnification, and so really you're looking for a nice clear optical system and then a bright, bold dot that you can find in any lighting conditions.
And, of course, Leupold sells a few of these for hunters as well, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and I guess that brings us to our last point. If people want to find out more, let's start off with the website, and then let's talk about some of the places, some of the stores where people are going to find Leupold. So website first, please.
Okay, www.leupold.com. We've got a great website, easy to navigate, and that's a great place to go. As far as retailers, we have a lot of great retailers in the Northwest. Cabela's, obviously, Bi-Mart in Oregon, Washington. I'll tell you, one of my favorite retailers is Gardner's in Pendleton, Oregon. Great little store. Those guys are awesome. They do a lot of business. There's a whole bunch of great. We have a wonderful dealer network. Fisherman's Marine in Portland. I mean, I could just go on and on, but they're all really, really good dealers, and they have a good selection and know the product really well.
Two other ones I got to ask about: Sportsman's Warehouse, and now that we got a Bass Pro Shop in the Northwest, are Leupold scopes found there too?
Oh, absolutely. Those two are stellar. You just named two other great retailers for us.
All right, so there you go, folks. Pretty much anywhere you're going to go to find quality sporting goods, you're going to find quality optics, and they're going to have the name Leupold on them. Check them out, either for the holidays or for just time to upgrade and get that scope, so you're not going to be frustrated and miss that shot next time because your scope isn't up to par. Leupold Optics, they are the standard for excellence when it comes to rifle scopes on the hunting scene and the tactical scene as well. Pat, always enjoy talking to you, and I hope that the holiday season, both Thanksgiving and Christmas, is great for you.
Thank you, John, and the same to you.
Good hunters know before you take that shot, you've got to see the whole picture. Now, the best way to do that is with a spotting scope, binoculars, or a rifle scope, but it's got to be from Leupold. Now, Leupold is a Northwest company with a reputation that stretches across the world for making superior optics. The kind of optics that allow you to see what you need before making that stock or pulling that trigger. Look for Leupold Optics at your local Cabela store, Dick's Sporting Goods, or online at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optical authority.
Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. To join us, go to pheasantsforever.org.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again from Max Lure Company is Lance Mers. Lance, I understand you want to talk about trout and kokanee fishing, and I'm thinking to myself, isn't it a little late in the year for that, my friend?
Au contraire. No, not at all. You know, a lot of people, there's a big misconception about kokanee being fished between, February to August. That's not true. Do they turn colors? Yes, they do. But there's a lot of kokanees that are not spawning, that are those year to 2 year non-spawning kokanee that they're just swimming around.
So where are some places in the Northwest where people can actually go and target kokanee and also rainbow trout if you're trolling around this time of year?
Two places that come to the top of my head. Number one is American Lake over on western Washington towards the Tacoma Lakewood area. The second place is over in Idaho. Lake Pend Oreille has done very well for kokanee fishing.
All right, so Lake Pend Oreille, choice number one. American Lake, maybe even a better choice, doesn't get quite so cold over there. And I know Lake Roosevelt, too, is a place where at least one guide I know works that hard in the winter for both kokanee and trout, much to my surprise. So what are people using to go ahead and attract these fish at this time of year?
Well, that's the beauty about Max Lure. We're known for our wedding ring spinners, but we have an attractor. It's called the Max Lure Double D Dodger, and I'm sure everybody's heard of it, but what I like to use is a 4.4-inch Dodger, and we're the only Dodger on the market that has 5 different holes, but what it does is it not only serves as a Dodger, but it serves as a side planer as well. So it pushes that Dodger away from your boat path, out of the boat wash, but it's also got a stop and go action as well. So.
It is really unique, folks. I've seen the Double D Dodger in action because I've used it plenty of times myself. It's like no other Dodger on the market, and the small size is perfect for kokanee and trout. You can go ahead and find the Double D Dodger at sporting goods stores near you or online at maxlure.com. And that wraps up another Max Minute, brought to you every week by Max Lure Company.
Breathe the fresh mountain air and feel the tranquility in northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Cast your line into the clear waters of our mountain-fed streams and rivers. Find solitude and surround yourself with nature as you fish for rainbow, brook, and bull trout. Or challenge yourself and fish for world-class steelhead in the wild and scenic Wallowa River or kokanee in the deep waters of Wallowa Lake. And when evening comes, spend some time hoisting a local brew and telling the tales of the one that got away. Watch the world wake up in Wallowa County. Your morning begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
It's the holiday season, and what better way to celebrate than with a year-long subscription to The Real News, dedicated to the accurate coverage of fishing issues throughout the Northwest for over 25 years. The Real News is the perfect gift for the reading angler. Just log on to therealnews.com and go to the subscription page. As a special bonus, we'll throw in a vinyl Real News sticker if you mention Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Order now and make someone happy far beyond the holidays.
Wetlands are some of the most important ecosystems on Earth, but our wetlands are quickly disappearing. Find out how you can help. Join Ducks Unlimited today.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're broadcasting from Pateros, Washington. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's probably because you heard about Pateros during the big wildfires that happened in north central Washington this summer. And some of you may be under the impression that Pateros burned down. Well, guess what? It didn't burn down. Yes, a number of homes burnt down, but the business district is fine, and this is a great place to come right now, especially if you're into outdoor recreation. With us here to tell us more is Jeanette Palmer. She's a general manager of Howard's on the River and Howard's Lakeshore Inn here in Pateros. Jeanette, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Jeanette, let's go ahead and set the stage here. Pateros is located at the confluence of the Methow and Columbia Rivers. You've got great fishing, you've got great hunting in the area, and beautiful scenery as well, and a beautiful hotel too, which we'll talk about more in a minute. But let's talk about what kind of fishing goes on here in the fall and winter.
Steelhead fishing.
As a matter of fact, the steelhead fishing's been going on here for years, and it's gotten really good. And there's basically two ways you can do it, folks. You can fish the Columbia River, or you can go ahead and fish the Methow River. And better still, the nice thing that you have going on right here is the fact that you're right at the mouth of the river here. You've got these docks out here. People catch steelhead right off these docks in the fall, don't they?
There's a lot of fishing off the docks, and it's wonderful to sit in the restaurant and watch them. And we've sat and watched them pull them in from the boat, sitting right here in the mornings. It's pretty fantastic watching them bring one in.
And folks, it's really easy to do, too. We're going to dive more into this later in the show, but I remember one of my first trips to Pateros. I came out here on a beautiful early fall day, went out in the dock, and I watched a lady haul in an honest 17-pound steelhead. It was just a monster, and I was hooked on coming up here to Pateros and fishing the Methow River after that. And that's just an example of how good the fishing is, but you've got fantastic fishing all up and down the Columbia and the Methow River that goes, what, all the way into March?
I believe so.
So we've got the steelhead fishing that's going on. Other things that people do here. I understand there's some great hunting to be had, too.
We have upland bird hunting available, and there's deer hunting available around here in the fall. Right now, the upland bird hunting goes until January, and especially out on the Bridgeport Bar and a little further up in the sagebrush and stuff that wasn't affected by the fires.
You know, and funny thing about the deer hunting, folks, a lot of people did not come here for deer hunting this year, but I've got word from several reliable sources that the deer hunting was lights out. The hunters weren't here, but the deer were here, and people took home a lot of big bucks, and they've issued extra permits because of the fire and because of the size of the herd. We talked about that during other portions of the show. The upland bird hunting, though, let's talk a little bit more about that. Are we talking just quail, or are we talking other birds too?
We're talking about pheasants and huns and chukar and quail.
You got it all. I mean, kind of the grand slam of upland birds. And, you know, a lot of people don't get the chance to hunt for Hungarian partridge, which, if you want to be politically correct now, are called gray partridge. But I still call them huns, too. But they're a lot of fun to go ahead and scare those up out of the sagebrush. They're a good-sized bird and great to work with the dog.
Yes, they are. Those are one of my favorite things to hunt. And I have a Llewellyn I hunt behind. And we love to go and chase up those hills and flush them up and chase after those birds. And they're great to bring home and cook.
Oh, I agree completely. So there's basically, you know, you can go ahead and do this based on the level of exercise that you want to do. If you want to go ahead and keep it easy, go after the quail. If you want a little more exercise, go after the huns. And if you really want to work out, hike those hills, go uphill and downhill and go after those chukar that will taunt you all day long. But when you get one, boy, it is rewarding. Those are not the only birds that we're hunting around here. There's ducks and geese on the Columbia River, too.
Yes, absolutely. And recently, probably last week, the ducks have all started moving back in. So we're sitting and watching them from the hotel and the restaurant right out in front of us.
When it comes to hunting on the upper Columbia River, one of the great things about coming here is, you've got a ton of geese, but the northerns are in now. So you've got mallard, you've got widgeon, and you've got diver ducks too. If you like bluebills and you like scaup, those are all available. And literally, at the Bridgeport Par is a great place to go, I know that. But all up and down the river is really good for the duck hunting, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I've actually been listening to a bunch of the guys getting their blinds ready and planning their trips out there to get the ducks.
So there you go, folks. There's upland bird, there's ducks, there's deer, there's steelhead fishing. So if we haven't got you tempted to come out here yet this fall and winter, I don't know what else we have to do, except maybe to tell you about the hotel that we're staying at here. I'll be honest, the first time I came here, I was amazed. This is truly a 4-star hotel that's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Tell our listeners a little bit about the Lakeshore Inn here.
Well, the Lakeshore Inn was built actually in memory of my brother. It was his idea, and he was killed in a car wreck. So it's definitely a family business. And we tried to bring in the luxury for travelers and for locals that isn't necessarily always available. All the rooms have a view and a deck off into the Columbia River. We have fireplaces in the rooms, and I would like to think that they're very comfortable and very luxurious and cozy when you're sitting there.
I couldn't agree more. And folks, here was my welcome to my room tonight. I literally, had a wonderful check-in experience. There's an expansive lobby where you can have breakfast and coffee in the morning. You go into your room. There's a gas fireplace that's burning. The window, like Jeanette says, looks out right on the Columbia. It's right there. And then some classical music playing as well. I mean, it's just fantastic. Great way to start a stay here. Now, if you get hungry, there's a restaurant next door too, isn't there?
Correct, and it's called Rivers Restaurant, and it also is a part of the family. My dad had Double R meat for years on his ranch, so he built the restaurant, and that is one of our specialties there. It's the signature Double R meat, and we also have chicken and pork and lots of items on the menu from breakfast through dinner, with prime rib being our specialty on Friday and Saturday night, and our homemade desserts are also one of the specialties that people drive for.
And it's funny because back in the day, this was, let's be honest, folks, it's situated with a convenience store and a Chevron station. And 20 years ago, if you came here, well, I hate to tell you this, it was kind of a greasy spoon. But now, if you come here, the food's really, really good. And folks all over this area, North Central Washington, talk about coming to Howard's on the River for the great food here. And that prime rib sounds delicious. Any other plates or specialties that people really like besides the prime rib?
Well, I think in the summertime when the decks are open and you can sit on the deck and right outside on the river and feel the breeze on your face, we have specialty items that are summer menu items that are specific to the food grown around here, and we have a lot of good response for those, and just the ambiance of eating the local food and sitting out on the deck.
Well, folks, again, that's Howard's on the River and Howard's Lakeshore Inn. It's located in Pateros, Washington, and there is tons of fun to be had outdoors here in the off season. We're going to have to come back and talk about all the fun you can have during the spring and summer, but we'll save that for another time. For now, let's go ahead and steer people towards a website and give them a phone number so they can go ahead and book a stay.
Okay, the website is howardsontheriver.com, and to book a stay here is 877-923-9555.
Again, that's 877-923-9555, 877-923-9555, or just go to howardsontheriver.com. That's howardsontheriver.com. Go ahead and book your stay here in Pateros. Get ready to have some fun in the outdoors, whether you're fishing or hunting. Jeanette, thanks for telling us all about it on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John. Have a great night.
I'd like to tell you I just brought down that buck, but I didn't. I missed. And you know why I missed? Because of the scope I've got on my rifle. You see, my friends told me to get a Leupold rifle scope. Why? Well, because Leupold is America's optical authority. They make a huge variety of quality scopes for every need, and they make them right here in the Northwest. Unfortunately, I didn't listen. I used the cheap scope that came with this rifle when I bought it. And when it came time to pull the trigger, well, let's just say things were a little blurry. Now, I've got nothing to look forward to except a long, empty-handed walk back home. Next time I come out into the field, there's going to be a Leupold scope on my rifle. And next time, I'm not going to miss.
Leupold Rifle Scopes. Check out the whole line at leupold.com and look for them at a sporting goods store near you.
At Shiloh Inn Suites Hotels, 4-star accommodations come with something else you'll really appreciate: affordability. Hello, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. Relax in Shiloh's beautiful deluxe smoke-free suites. Enjoy Shiloh's spacious pools, spas, steam, and sauna rooms. At Shiloh Inn Suites Hotels, we're making 4-star excellence affordable with more free amenities than most any other hotel chains. For reservations, call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohins.com. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence.
I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it. Gonna get up before the sun.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio, and it's time again for news and reports from the field, brought to you every week by Mardon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. That cold front a little over a week ago has brought down the Northerns. That's right. The ducks are in, the hunting is on fire, and walleye fishing is still going great, both in the boat at Potholes Reservoir and right off the docks at Mardon Resort. In other words, this is a great time for an off-season visit to Mardon Resort for some cast and blast action. Take advantage of a winter special that gives you 50% off of your third night stay. Go to mardonresort.com to find out more. That's mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. We start off our news by telling you an alarming number of adult salmon are being killed by seals and sea lions in the lower Columbia River. That's the word from the National Marine Fisheries Service, which released a study showing adult salmon survivability has dropped from 89% in 2012 to only 55% in 2014, due primarily to the increased number of these marine mammals in the river and their fish gorging habits. The Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife reports the number of sea lions seen hauling out near Astoria went from 72 in 2011 to, get this, 616 this year. Solving the problem of reducing the number of sea lions in the lower Columbia and below Bonneville Dam has not been easy. Past efforts to relocate troublemaking sea lions have been unsuccessful, as the animals have come right back. Harassing them with noisemakers has also been less than effective. A new program to trap and remove some of the sea lions is now going on at Bonneville Dam, but it has been the target of lawsuits by the Humane Society of the United States, and only 15 sea lions were trapped below the dam last year and killed, which hardly puts a dent into 7,000 sea lions and seals thought to be swimming and feasting in the river between the dam and the mouth of the river. Our thanks goes out to the Longview Daily News for this story. In central Washington, the breeding female wolf of the Teanaway pack has been found dead near Salmon-Lasac, and it was killed by a bullet. Northwest Sportsman magazine reports the collared wolf was killed somewhere around October 17th, and there's a reward for information leading to the person who pulled the trigger. Wolves are protected in Washington state and cannot be hunted. The loss of this collared wolf from the pack will also make it difficult for biologists to keep tabs on where this pack is at, an issue for livestock owners in the area. Conservation Northwest, which has funded range rider efforts focusing on this pack, issued a statement saying whether one supports or opposes wolf recovery in the Northwest, illegally killing any wildlife is an unacceptable abuse of our shared natural heritage. It doesn't matter if it's a buck, bull elk, or predator, poaching is never okay. Personally, I've got to agree with that sentiment. If you have any information about this case, contact the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service office in Redmond, Washington, and let them know what you might know. In other predator news, Cascadia Wildlands has announced a coalition of conservation organizations is suing the Bureau of Land Management. Their sin? They granted a 5-year permit allowing predator calling contests on public land surrounding Salmon, Idaho over the winter holiday season. The BLM and local wildlife officials would tell you that Derby, put on by Idaho for Wildlife, is an important way to control the coyote populations in the area and also helps to a lesser degree in reducing wolf numbers. Last year, 21 coyotes were killed and a grand total of 0 wolves were killed. The environmental groups filing the lawsuit see things differently. Nick Cady with Cascadia Wildlands says there is simply no ecological or scientific justification for these killing derbies. These federal agencies are abusing public lands and wildlife to help finance an extremist anti-wolf organization in Idaho. Well, there you go. 3 stories highlighting how inept we seem to be at trying to manage predators in the water and on land. I can only imagine what our game populations would look like if we actually let trained biologists manage wildlife instead of letting lawyers in courtrooms and poachers sneaking around in the woods do it for us. Let's move on to something happier, shall we? Like steelhead fishing. If you want to know how to catch steelhead using a float and a jig and are looking for a river or two to try it at, we've got the perfect man to talk to about it. We're broadcasting again from Pateros, Washington, at the mouth of the Methow on the Columbia River. Just attended a really informative steelhead seminar. Learned that I didn't know nearly what I thought I knew about catching steelhead with a jig and a bobber. The guy that schooled me, his name is Keith Rowe. He's the fly shop manager at the North 40 Fly Shop in Omak, Washington. Spends a lot of time fishing the Methow and Okanagan rivers, and he's here to tell us about this fishery. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Keith, let's go ahead and talk about steelheading up here on the Upper Columbia and its tributaries. You know, these are summer-run steelhead. When do they start showing up in the Methow and Okanagan, and how long can you fish for them?
They actually show up about August. In the season, it's all predicated on how many wild fish that they have. Usually the season opens about the 1st of October, somewhere within a week or so of that time. And then it'll run based upon the number of wild fish caught and released. And that can run until the end of March. Sometimes it could end in December. Just depends on how many fish are caught and released.
Early in the season, in October, you can do really good swinging flies, even using dry flies for steelhead. And I've had great success tossing spinners. But once it starts getting cold, like it is right now, jigs under bobbers is the way to go, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much the go-to, what everybody uses that are gear fishing. What I use is a 1/32 ounce jig. That's the small jig. Slow drift through, and sometimes you have to change colors up. My number one color, blue with a chartreuse head. And I learned that color combo on the Sky Comish back in 1980.
It's funny how this fishery has evolved over time, because I remember 20 years ago being right here at the mouth of the Methow, tossing half-ounce bucktail jigs into the Columbia River with a coon shrimp on it and waiting for a fish to bite. And now we're talking about 1/32 ounce jigs. It's really changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. Well, for some. For me, when I started fishing the Methow in 1978, I was throwing the corky and yarn. About 1980, 81, I switched over to the jigs. And I've been using the 1/32 ounce jig since then.
Well, I guess you're just smarter than the average bear. It's taken me a little longer to catch up. And some we need to talk about. Here on the Methow, it's not uncommon to have some really good days on the water with, half a dozen fish or more caught and released.
Oh, yeah. I mean, on a good day, you could even get into double digits.
Let's talk about the actual setup. For those that are not familiar with it or, like me, have been doing it wrong, how do you rig up for success? And we're going to start with the line, and we're talking winter here with ice being an issue.
Normally, I would use a braided line that floats, but once the temperatures drop, then I switch over to a high visibility mono that also needs to be a buoyant mono. So you have to kind of do a little research on what you find there.
And what pound test do you like to use?
I'm using a roughly around 10 to 12 pound for my mono.
We've got the line. We're going to put a bobber on it. Why don't you go ahead and talk about the bobbers you like to use?
Most of the floats that I use, and I use the word floats, is the clear kind. Now I use one company that's Clear Drift floats, Sheffield floats, and then sometimes I will use a solid float, which is the West Coast Drift float. And these are all slip floats, so they go up and down your line, so you can adjust them. And I like the clear floats better just because less visibility under the water.
Another change, folks, from back in the day when people were using Canadian dink floats, that's just not used here anymore. So you're using these slip bobbers or slip floats, I should say. They go up and down the line. You've got your knot up above. You mentioned you have a couple of beads that you put above the bobber. You've got a bead below the float as well. And then you've got not a swivel, but a weight.
Right. It's actually an inline weight, and it's got a swivel at the top, swivel at the bottom. So what you've done is you've doubled your swivels, which is really important to prevent it from knotting up.
What type of weight are we talking about fishing these Upper Columbia tributaries? And again, folks, even though we're talking about Upper Columbia tributaries, what we're talking about is going to work on rivers like the John Day and the Grand Ronde too. Right. So again, let's talk about what size weight.
Well, if you're fishing here, I'm generally running, because I'm running a 1/32 ounce jig, I run a 1/4 ounce weight with a 1/4 ounce float. For the most people, what I would recommend is a 3/8 float with a 1/4 ounce weight. If you're using the right kind of rod, you'll have no problem with that.
So something else really important, again, where I got schooled, I'm that guy that always says, well, I got to hit bottom because that's where the fish are. And apparently I've been doing that wrong. I need to be how far above the bottom?
6 inches to 12 inches on a general run, which most runs run between 4 feet and 6 feet. So you want to keep it around 6 inches to 12 inches off the bottom.
And last but not least, mending the line. Is this critical?
Yes, very critical. You want to keep your float going down so it's straight up and down and a nice, even, consistent drift. So you sometimes got to pick that line up off the surface. That's why you want a buoyant line. Mend it upstream. So it's just like fly fishing. Keep it going, and you can get 100 feet or 100 yards. If long, you can float that thing as far as you can see the float.
There you go, folks. There's so much more that Keith covered tonight at this seminar, and he's a wealth of information. You can find out more by contacting him at the North 40 Fly Shop in Omak, and they've got a website too. It's North 40, that's the number 40, flyshop.com. That's north40flyshop.com. One other way to contact Keith is through a personal email. It's keith.rowe, R-O-E, at north40.com. That's keith.rowe, R-O-E, at north40.com. Go ahead and contact Keith about fishing up here in north central Washington, or getting tips to go ahead and use a float and a jig and catch steelhead anywhere you're fishing here in the Northwest. Keith, thanks for telling us all about it on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
You have a good day.
Got a bamboo pole and a leaky boat.
Listen up, steelheaders. Fishing jigs under slip bobbers is one of the best ways to hook up with a metalhead this season, and Max Lure Company has got 2 jigs you have got to have. The Glow Getter is a marabou jig with a stout hook that's perfect for waters where no bait is allowed. When you can use bait, tie on a rock dancer. Tip it with a shrimp and put some oil on the scent collar, and before you know it, you'll be catching some of the best fighting fish around. The Glow Getter and Rock Dancer jigs, only from Max Lure Company.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Let's run through some upcoming events before we go. Razor clamming is going on this weekend on several Southwest Washington beaches. And so far this year, clammers have been digging up a whole lot of clams. Dig times are from noon to midnight, and the beaches open include Copalis, which is open today, only today for you Saturday listeners. Mock Rocks open through Sunday the 23rd, as well as Twin Harbors and Long Beach, which are both open through the 26th. The dig times are from noon to midnight. Get out there and have fun. Heading inland, the Snake Clearwater Steelhead Derby has officially begun in the waters near Lewiston and Clarkston, and there's a whole lot of cash and a whole lot of prizes to be won from now through the 29th, to include $2,000 for the angler who lands the biggest fish. Find out more at hellscanyonvisitor.com. In Oregon, it's all about mushrooms at a couple of state parks during the next week. At Tryon Creek near Portland, there's a free presentation this Sunday the 23rd about mushroom identification, followed by a short hike where you'll get to put that newfound knowledge to use. The event starts at 1 p.m. and goes until 3. It's free, but pre-registration is required. You can do so by going to tryonfriends.org. Meanwhile, at Fort Stevens State Park near Astoria, there are similar presentations and wild mushroom hikes taking place today for you Saturday listeners, as well as next Saturday and Sunday, the 29th and 30th, also from 1 to 3 p.m. The cost is free, but there is a $5 day use fee to enter the park. And West Yellowstone is the place to be between the 25th and the 29th if you enjoy Nordic skiing. That's because the annual Yellowstone Ski Festival will be taking place there. If you go, you can not only get in on some early skiing, but also partake in Nordic ski clinics for both adults and kids. Get psyched up for the season from some motivational speakers. Check out the manufacturers' exhibits, wax clinics, and watch some races too. Find out more at YellowstoneSkiFestival.com. While you're on the web, I hope you'll check out our website, northwesternoutdoors.com. It's your chance to find links and dive deeper into the guests that we interview on this show and the topics we address as well. You can also listen to last week's show by going to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. We have a Facebook page too. Like us, follow us. We're always posting information there that doesn't necessarily make it onto our show. That's Northwestern Outdoors Radio on Facebook. And another website I've got to tell you about. It's RenoViolaOutdoors.com. That's right, RenoViolaOutdoors.com. This is the website where you can actually listen to Outdoors Radio all day and all night long. That's right. It is 7 days a week of Outdoors Radio, and our show is part of it. You can catch us Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, but there's a total of 30 shows. Check it out, RenoViolaOutdoors.com. You're going to love it if you love Outdoors Radio. That's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Pat Mundy, truly one of the best guys in the outdoors industry and a great representative for Leupold Optics. And I also hope you enjoyed our visit to Pateros. The town and the area around it took a real beating during the Carlton Complex fire, but the people that live there are tough. There's a motto for the town now. It's Pateros Strong. And if you go there, you'll find out how tough the people are who live here. They are rebuilding, and you can help them out by simply going there, recreating in the area, and spending your money within the local economy. It's Pateros, Washington. It's a great place to go, and I hope I'll see you up there. Until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.